Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our webinar today. Today we will be discussing the different type of anxieties one endures in the workplace. My name is Mohammed Bousfiat, and today I will be acting as a psychologist and discussing these different issues that one endures in the workplace. I have had experience with different corporations around the world and doing training for for their administrators to demonstrate the different ways one must deal with anxiety, especially in the workplace. Today we have four different participants from four different backgrounds who will each discuss their personal experiences with the anxiety in the workplace. And furthermore, we're going to be discussing with them, and I will be giving them advice on how to deal with their issues in the workplace. Now, thanks to everyone for tuning in today to our webinar, and welcome. And if you have any questions, feel free to write your questions in the chat. I will try to discuss them as I go along, and also talk with our participants and help them in any way I can. So first off, we will be discussing the anxiety in the workplace, starting off with panic disorder. We have a participant here today with us called Hind, who will be furthermore elaborating more about the symptoms she feels and the effects it's had on her in the workplace. Now, passing on to Hind.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Hind Khattab, and today I'm going to share with the anxiety and stress disorder. So I actually I was diagnosed when I was 17 with epileptic seizures. Actually, when I started off having these seizures, I only experienced psychological symptoms. I could feel the anxiety and I could feel the stress within me when I had a deadline to meet, a big event, or any occasion that would make me feel stressed. Then throughout the years, I started developing also physical aspects. I experienced some pain in my arms, in my legs, some pain also around my chest, and I could feel my jawline being very tightened. At first, those seizures were actually very light. Then, throughout the years, they started developing into being, their intensity has increased, and I could sometimes not be able to move at all. So when I was coming up, I didn't know what was the cause and what caused them. So I actually consulted a psychologist, and he told me that I had anxiety and panic disorder. So I was advised to follow a treatment for 6 months. I was taking anxiety pills. However, when I finished my treatment, I didn't feel any difference. For sure, my their intensity has decreased, and I was having them not more oftenly. However, I could still feel any anxiety inside me when I had important event or occasion. So yeah, after my high school, I had to do my bachelor and my master. Since I am now working as a marketing manager in a multinational called Campus. So when I was throughout my bachelor and my master degrees, I didn't experience any epileptic seizure. However, I could always feel the anxiety within me. When I started working, when I entered at first in the workplace environment, I had my first seizure since many years, last week. So I know that having these seizures in my work, it it will affect me negatively, and it will affect my productivity, since I had to stay in the hospital for 2 days. And I will for sure miss a lot of work days, and I cannot afford that, since I am a manager of a whole department in a big organization. And I know that sometimes my anxiety takes control over me, and I am not able to perform my whole capacities. So therefore, that's why I'm sharing my experience with you, and thank you.
For sharing with us your personal experience with panic attacks. And I understand that sometimes it is hard to talk about personal issues as such. Now, first off, I will be moving to my PowerPoint and show you the different treatments that I have found my patients that have helped them. And at the same time, I will be also discussing other ways to to feel better during these tough moments. Now, give me a second as I move to my PowerPoints. So, first off, I would like to give more insight to what a panic disorder is, and it is based on anxiety. And the when it comes to panic disorders, it has more of a physical symptoms rather than other anxiety disorders, including from chest pains, including from shortness of breath, and different stress within your body. Now, what I always tell my patients is first off to recognize those symptoms. When you are having a panic attack or an epileptic attack, it is first off important to recognize the way that you feel during those attacks. If one recognizes these symptoms early while having a panic attack, he can also help. It can also help him to not increase the issue with the disorder. Now, as what I advise first off is to join a group where people have the same disorder, where you can talk about it. Now, with panic disorders, it is kind of important to follow certain medication that maybe your doctor or your psychologist can give you, and this medication has to be taken. Very importantly, it has to be taken on schedule. And lastly, I advise you to try to cut down on caffeine, try to not be around smoke and different drugs that can trigger these panic attacks. And also, if you are feeling anxious, specifically in the workplace, and you understand that you suffer from panic disorder and so forth, you have to be able to schedule early, to be responsible, to be organized in your work. So for you, so you can relax more when you are having these issues. Now, it is also crucial for you to understand the disease that you have, to understand all the symptoms, to understand the ways that you can help yourself. There isn't a certain treatment one can follow. Everyone is different, and everyone's response is different to treatments. So thank you again, Hind, for sharing with us your story. And now I will be moving on to our second disorder that we'll be discussing, which is general anxiety disorder. Excuse me. Give me a second as I pass on to our next participants. Our next participants will be Yusra, and I'll hand you the floor right about now.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Yusra, and as Mohammed Bousfaha told you before, I suffered from generalized anxiety disorder at a period of my life. So I decided today to share my own experience with you. I think that we all agree that sometimes we feel the need to talk, and find someone that can listen to us without any judgment is always a good thing. It can be someone who don't really know us, whatever, but sharing our feelings or thoughts helps a lot. I was that kind of person, except a few months ago, my vision to see things has completely changed. The worry was just impractical, and that makes my daily life becomes a constant state of worry, of creep and fear. At that time, I started to believe that no one will really accept to hear or understand my state of mind if myself I did not understand what was happening to me. So everything made me sick, and everything hurted a lot and pushed me think more than people usually do, and worry more than normal people would. So I find it hard to stop myself every time it started. I knew that I don't have to feel like this or think like this, but as I was already in trouble, for example, uh, I was worried about my family's health when no one was sick, and worry to do an accident or something else, even if the road is empty and there's no risk to do an accident. And I was worried not to be on time and worried to lose people I love. So this anxiety affected my whole life, the way I thought, the way I lived, and this stopped my ambitions and all inviting me to do my work the way I did this before. So I was no more creative, and that pushed me to have serious problems with my colleagues at work, since I was never in a good mood because of my headaches, and I was not doing my work and submit it on time, like what I did before. So it made me feel bad to see all my career and all things that I really liked to do before becomes a kind of a burden and couldn't do anything to fix it. So I decided to leave the company. At the moment I left the company, I knew that things became serious and my visit to a doctor started to be a must. So I told him everything and he helped me a lot. Uh, and at that time, things becomes better and things are good now. This is my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Yusra, for sharing your story too. And the difference between panic disorder and general anxiety disorder is quite big. With general anxiety disorder, it is more of something that is occurring maybe once a day, maybe a couple of times a day, even to the extent of a couple of times a week. Now, when people are suffering from general anxiety disorder, it is something that is is quite normal. One must say it is normal to have general anxiety in your life, in your work, in your family, and in your relationships. But it is the issue with it is when it becomes very common, when it becomes very repetitive, and when general anxiety becomes repetitive, it takes a big toll on its patients, and due to that, the person can't reach its full potential, specifically if we're talking about general anxiety in the workplace. Now, excuse me before I move on and talk to Yusra about her personal experience. I will go back to the my PowerPoint that I have here. Now, for the treatments, I always tell my patients when it becomes something that is repetitive is having daily exercise, which will help you feel better in the long term and short term when you are getting these general anxiety. And the main thing is also stopping coffee because caffeine can play a huge part in anxiety. Eating healthy and having a well balanced diet is also important, and something that is quite different that only a few people say, only a few psychologists promotes, is having stress management techniques. If you can spend a couple times a day meditating or doing yoga, it can calm down your anxiety more than one assumes, and is beneficial no matter what in the long run. And again, using muscle and mind relaxation techniques, finding ways for you to relieve stress, maybe through it can be through spending time with your loved ones, and also and being around positive people. But also, when it comes to being in the workplace, it is also important excuse me, it is also important for you to plan ahead, like I told to Hind, and especially when you have general anxiety, and especially in your day-to-day job and so forth, you need to always be extra responsible, extra organized, and always plan ahead so you don't let things accumulate and then give you that general anxiety that you are suffering from. And again, Yusra, thank you again for sharing your experience with us. And I hope the treatments I have told you can help you in the future. And lastly, with the general anxiety, it should be taken serious, but as at certain points, you have to understand that you are feeling anxious, and you have to figure out the ways that you can help yourself. And they can be ranging from doing techniques or meditating or yoga, or even planning ahead and being extremely organized in your job. Now, we will be moving on to our next participant today, which will be Rita Adawi, who will be discussing post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is one of the more serious anxiety disorders that can affect people for a long time, can even affect them for their whole lives. Now, I'll be passing on to Rita Alawi. Give me a second, please, as I switch the screen. And again, I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, feel free to write down your questions in the chat group.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rita. I recently found out that I have PTSD, which is a type of anxiety. PTSD, which is short for post-traumatic stress disorder. According to the Mayo Clinic, PTSD is a mental health condition that triggered by a terrifying event, either experiencing it or witnessing it. Symptoms may include flashbacks, nightmares, and severe uncontrollable about the event. Triggered this mental health condition that has marked my memory since that day, and is still freshly stamped as if it was yesterday, is this horrific event that occurred last year, which is rape. I was actually raped last year. When, as I said, in 1 month it's gonna be a year. In my previous job, in the workplace, something I never thought was possible. It all started out with the long hours of work that usually took us all night to finish. Then it moved on to finishing over dinner, which I didn't really think was a bad idea. I didn't have a misplaced thoughts by then. I thought it was for a professional purpose. As he was my boss, it wasn't my word to say whether I wanted to work late or not. His behavior started to slowly become misplaced. For instance, he would touch my hand to thank me or even pat my back. Things started to become real awkward. I didn't want to lose my job. Everything was perfect there. I had everything I could ever wish for in a except for the issue that was really a big one. I could only blame myself for what happened. I chose not to involve anyone. I thought I had the situation under control. Until the day that monster decided to rape me. It is a terrifying event that has been haunting my conscience since. He tried to blackmail me by telling me I would lose my job if I decided to refuse, which was the case. But he wouldn't take no for an answer and decided to proceed in his own way by raping me. Nothing in this world is worth my freedom, especially my rights as a woman. He was later on brought to trial, which resulted in being accused of rape with a 3-month imprisonment as charges, which is nothing at all compared to what he did to me. Not only has he harmed me physically, but also mentally. It has almost taken me a year to start looking for another job, to work with other people in a global workplace. And I am still not comfortable when I am surrounded with other people. I get panic attacks. I keep getting those flashbacks, and it's not making me, it's not making me comfortable with others. And that is really, really having a huge impact on my daily life and my work. That's my story.
Dear Rita, I'm extremely saddened with what has happened to you, and it takes a lot of courage for sharing a story like this, despite all the things you have faced mentally and probably even physically. It is something that should not be taken lightly. It is a very important issue, especially in around the world, especially in the workplace where you know bosses or so forth try to take the benefits of their workers. And I understand that the results of it is a disorder like PTSD, and that is what the disorder is. It is mainly seen in cases like these. It is also seen in cases of war. If soldiers are affected a lot with PTSD, different people have endured, for example, grew up in violent homes and so forth, and these can affect you for a long time. And thank you again for sharing this story with us. But what I believe is that first off, you have to understand that therapy is extremely important, especially in the short term. I would advise you for you to seek therapeutical help, and through therapy, you can share the way you feel, the way you resent the issue, and the way you feel mentally. And also, it is important for you to understand that there is medication that can help you with this. For example, I understand that it might be hard for you to find another job because of what happened. It is hard for you to take a step back in the workplace, and medication is also something that is necessary in this situation. And also, the different treatments that I have told my patients is finding coping techniques. If you have any close family members and friends that you are able to talk to them about the way you feel regarding this issue. And in general, just talking about the way you feel is extremely important in this case of what has happened to you. There is also different ways, as for example, there is there is lectures that you can go that have people who have had the same experience, and they talk about the way they felt and how they coped with it, and that can help too. And I am extremely saddened about what has happened to you, and I understand the magnitude of this, and this hopefully what I said can make you can help you and make you feel better towards your disease. Also, with the PTSD, you might get flashbacks, and you might get different memories of what has happened, and that is extremely hard. And therefore, medication is also important for you to help you cope towards towards feeling better. Now, thank you so much, Rita, for sharing with us this story. And we'll be moving on to our last participant, which will be discussing social anxiety disorder. And we have Rita Albuquerque here to give us her own anecdotes about the issue, and hopefully I can give her ways to deal with the social anxiety. If you give me a second, I will be moving on to Rita Albuquerque.
Hello everyone, my name is Rita. I'm an assistant manager in L'Oréal. I am here to share with you my story with all of you. I always felt bad in my own skin. No matter how hard I was trying to fit in, it never worked. I tried to be in a group, but I felt useless. I tried to find something I was good at. I tried to feel good about myself, but nothing worked. So I chose to be lonely because this was the right way to feel free. The idea of feeling that again, I was feeling like that again was my biggest fear. By feeling like that, I mean feeling bad, shy, scared of being humiliated, that everything would happen again. I thought I was going crazy. After years, I got my first job as an assistant. Everything was okay. I was discreet. I was minding my own business. But my superior thought that maybe I needed a little push. So she asked me to present a project to my coworkers. Back then, I wasn't diagnostic yet, so no one knew about my situation, not even me. So I went in front of everyone. I felt like I was dying. I started blushing so much, well, feeling like like just feeling their eyes on me was unbelievable. I felt like my heart was racing. I felt like dying. No words could come out of my mouth. I ran away to the bathroom where I had a panic attack, my first real one. For those who don't even know what it is, it feels like your soul is leaving your body. I was hysterically crying and suffocating at the same time. I was in a point where I felt like I was going to faint. The CEO of the company came and called the emergency. They took me to a hospital where they introduced me to the psychiatric. I had a full checkup. They discovered that the scars that I had on my body, the scar that I did to myself because of the pain, I always thought that I was alone and crazy, but in reality, I was suffering from social anxiety disorder. And I understand that from now I could really help myself, and it was a real thing. After many years of after many sessions, sorry, of therapy, I discovered that part of that was triggered by my condition. Like I had a conflictual relationship with my brothers, and this is what made me feel like feeling bad about being around people. Anyway, after all of that, I lost my job of assistant, and I didn't really care because even if it was unfair, because in a workplace they don't really have the right to fire you for your condition, I couldn't go back. It was too many bad memories. So I applied in a new company, L'Oreal, and this company was aware of my condition. And there has also a psychiatric department to help their like employees. Also, now I have a treatment, and they give me some tasks that are like appropriate to me. I still have a hard time to talk with others, and be talkative and be social. I don't have a lot of friends. I don't feel extremely comfortable with my fears. Going to the office is always hard. Some of my coworkers are respectful, they aware of who I am and what I'm struggling with. I decided to live with my disorder despite like not letting my disorder live for me. I am trying to be successful despite everything, and now I'm a manager in one of the biggest cosmetology companies. So here is my story. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita, for sharing with us your story. I understand that social anxiety is something that a lot of people face, and it is something that is very important in someone's life. It can take a real toll especially in the workplace when you're constantly surrounded with people, not necessarily even people that you're comfortable with. Now I'll be slowly turning to my PowerPoint. Then I'll be giving my own inputs about your story. And thank you again for sharing with us this. Excuse me. Yeah. So, what is social anxiety? Social anxiety is overwhelming anxiety and excessive self consciousness, especially in everyday social situations, especially, for example, in work, when you're going out, when you are around people, specifically people you're not comfortable with. For the treatments, it's always to find ways to limit the stress you have when you're talking to people, and this is first off starts with you accepting what you have and understanding the way you feel with it, and also understanding ways that can help you. Maybe going out with people that you have comfortable with, meeting more people, and pushing a little bit to your comfort zone can also help you. Getting enough sleep. Getting physical exercise, and because physical exercise helps you be comfortable with who you are, so it directly leads you for your anxiety to diminish. And specifically, it's participating in social situations is what I advise. Is when you participate in social events, you're directly attacking your anxiety disorder, and through that, it is a way for you to treat yourself and to solve for your own disorder. Like you said, that you should not let your disorder define you, but you define your disorder. And understanding the way you feel and understanding the way is that it can help you to feel better. In the workplace, I know it is extremely hard when you are pitching an idea to investors and so forth. And again, like I said to all participants, is being organized, planning ahead, and all these things are extremely important. And Rita, thank you again for sharing with us your story, and I hope you feel better. Now I will be moving on to the questions we have here given by our viewers. First question, this is directed to Hind. Najwa Aqil has a question. Did you try any alternatives such as natural remedies to calm or cure your crisis? And this is a question for Hind, so I'll be switching the screen to Hind right about now.
So question, have and cure remedies. Actually, I got a subscription for yoga classes. It has helped me in the way that I started coping better with my anxiety, but it didn't like make the anxiety fade away. However, it did actually help me in developing ways to prevent the epileptic crisis. For example, if I feel very anxious and very stressed in a period, I just go to a yoga class and I try to push everything away from my body and from my mind. I try to calm my mind and to ease it, and it has indeed helped me to prevent myself from having epileptic crisis.
Excuse me, give me a second here. Now moving on to the second question by Kautsar Rafiq. She's asking me a question, and the question is as follows. Can you please shed more light on the symptoms of anxiety in adults? Well, anxiety in adults is quite common. This can start at a young age and lead up to your adulthood. If, for example, if you're feeling anxious, specifically in the workplace, you will have symptoms. For example, you will be sweating more, you will be feeling stressed, you will be feeling chest pains, short breathing. All these different symptoms show up in a lot of people when they're suffering from anxiety attacks, a short sense of breath, and extreme stress. You will find yourself lost, for example. It is something that a lot of patients feel, and specifically the symptoms are mostly shortness of breath, extreme stress, being lost, not being able to talk, or feeling kind of a small paralysis in a way. And yeah, that's the symptoms that we see in adults. And yeah, Kautsar Rafiq asked another question. And does anxiety target even children? Yes, it does. Anxiety does target even children. Specifically, anxiety doesn't tend to target young children. For example, from being born to the age of 10, once kids are starting to develop social skills and are starting to develop social interactions, this happens. And so yes, it does target children, but to a certain extent. Now, thank you guys for everyone for tuning in today to our webinar. I hope you have learned about the different anxieties in the workplace. It has been a pleasure for us to speak and being able to share each and everyone's experiences. And it is a special privilege for me so that I can help more patients with all the things they have endured. And thank you again for the spectators for being here, and have a good day. And thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.